Yes, now, and welcome back to another episode of the RBNY UK podcast. And I have returned, even though it's probably not the most brilliant upbeat episode to come back to. However, Luke, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. Well, it's been a while since we've been on a podcast together. It's not been a while since I saw you. So I saw you literally 4 days ago, something like
Yeah,
that. A week ago, maybe now.
yeah,
Um, we weren't doing a podcast for shared. Um, we were enjoying some beverages.
yes, very
Um,
much so.
yeah, so it was a good night. But they're back to talk new Red Bulls. 2 games since we've been away. I don't want to spoil it for everyone. There's going to be no more League Cup games. So
Mm,
I just leave it as that for now, as like on the tease, like what's happened.
yeah,
Uh, been interesting
yeah. Obviously, the last
few
7 days
weeks.
we've had the Hudson River Derby at RBA, which went in our favour, and then trip down to Philly, which was cancelled and then rescheduled for the next day. Um, But yeah, not the most better performance. But if we start with the first game, it actually wasn't too bad there.
No,
The first League Cup game.
no, it was not. It was not too bad. Um, always get a win. Always have to get a win against some lot. Me and Anthony sort of point out in our podcast before we did it that we weren't playing a team. We weren't not playing NYCFC that won Cup 2 years ago.
No.
We're not at that level this year. I mean, we've not been great this year, but I still think we're a better team than they are this year so far. Um, so I was confident we'd get a win. Obviously, it was one nil victory, which I did actually predict in last week's episode because Anthony predicted 3-1, and I said we're not scoring 3 goals. I said it'd be 1-0. We could score one goal and keep them out, and I was exactly right because I knew we're not scoring more than one goal. I can't remember who scored. Was it on my Fernandez PK?
Indeed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Fernandez PK. And I don't hit it with his drum. It was another game with no goal from a striker.
Yeah. Well, that is the massive problem. Obviously, we're going to talk about it a bit more after we look at the Philly game as well. But it was a solid performance, like you say. NYCFC are not tearing down buildings with how they're playing. They're not doing that well. It was kind of one of them games where both teams had the only bit of an edge in the game due to the rivalry. Otherwise, it wasn't very much a
No.
technically good display from anyone. So yeah, it was obviously always nice to beat them, especially in 90 minutes. They had a couple of chances, one right near the end, which they probably should have scored. But yeah, obviously that sealed our progression through into the next round of the League Cup, which obviously then we got drawn away to Philly after Philly beat in DC. Then obviously comes around and meant to be playing them about an hour and a half before the game. Like for anyone who's made that journey, felt sorry for them because it was quite
Yeah.
late notice. Obviously, weather warning in the area for tornado like winds and heavy downpours. So they took the idea to reschedule the game for the next day at 8 p.m. So then that came, and it was a superb start.
Yeah.
A fantastically worked goal. Obviously, Ellis Manuel at the end scoring the goal, which was a goal from a striker.
Golden striker, which we
Even
cry
though
out for.
I feel like I could have scored that one personally. Um,
Yeah.
then the big point in the game, Dante was played through. Keeper had come out, covered his right hand side of the goal, and it seemed like all he had to do really was put it just past the keeper's left hand side, and it was a goal. And he took it with his right foot and put it wide. And then everything after that, the game just went in Philly's
Yeah.
favour. All right, it went to penalties in the end, but I think that was such a big
Yeah.
miss,
I mean,
Dante.
they were
That
holding
he
on for
changed.
penalties for like
Yeah,
20 minutes in after, especially after Philly got that goal back.
yeah,
It never looked like scoring another goal. You took. Yeah, it's just not. It is one of the biggest galaxy brain decisions I've seen by a manager.
mm,
I've seen. I mean, Jesse Marsh galaxy brained it in the CONCACAF Champions League semi-finals. I remember him when he galaxy brained it. It happens I mean, Pep does it all the bloody time.
Mm.
That's some big, that's a big case training. Obviously, one of the big things is bringing Lewis Morgan on for take a PK.
Yeah.
It's an interesting one. I
Yeah.
understand the reason behind it because he would have penalty taker last year. But we've seen it not work before. We saw it with the Euros, not work at all.
Mm.
Um, yeah, it was not a great performance. I don't think.
No, like just piggybacking on the Lewis Morgan situation, I never get it personally how you would take off a player that's used to the pace of the game, ready, fit, and sharp, comparing it to them bringing on a player. Don't get me wrong, fantastic penalty taker was 6 of 6 last season in the MLS,
Yeah,
but someone who hasn't played since early June, who's not
yeah,
up to the standard of the match, and literally his first touch of the ball is putting it down on the spot. I would personally rather if you kind of have to do that, I'd rather him bring on like a Wiki Carmona who's at least been playing, rather
yeah,
than bring someone completely out of the cold. But
yeah,
obviously, throwing it the other way around, it was very good to finally see him suited up again. How fit is he? Is another question. He did
yeah,
not. When I was looking at the pre-game warm-ups, did not look entirely fit.
yeah,
So maybe he was only put on the bench for the whole reason of going to penalties, potentially, and him scoring. Because Apple TV did refer to it that before the game, he actually went to both penalty spots and was looking at them already. So if your player's walking onto the pitch already looking at penalty spots, the mentality is we might be going to penalties.
yeah.
So is it the right mentality? I think that's a discussion to have at another point. But in terms of actual performances, there were some good performances, I thought. It
Yeah.
did get a bit gritty at times, the actual performance, quite a lot of tackles going in. I can't remember the guys in midfield for Philly, but he was driving me absolutely insane with absolute complaining at everything. Martinez, he did get a yellow.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would probably say because how we played the last 20 to 30 minutes, we didn't really want to win that game. We obviously progression would have been lovely. We would have had been at home in the next tie. And obviously, most people in this competition are just trying to set up that Inter Miami fixture in the semi-finals to
Yeah.
get that lucrative deal. But yeah, there's some positives to take, but otherwise, it's a missed opportunity in my eyes.
I agree. I said it before on the before on this podcast. I don't think a lot of clubs have been taking this competition seriously enough. Um, this is realistically our only chance of silverware this year
Yeah,
was like we're out of the cup, we're out of US Open Cup. You're not going to win Sports Shield. I know MLS Cup, anything can happen, but even if we do make the playoffs, which is still in doubt, no one can tell me this either it's him going on a 5 game run and winning the MLS Cup.
yeah,
It's been years, I think, yeah, maybe I can do it. This is not one of them years. So realistically, this is only chance you got to win anything this year. And even in games we won, we scraped by. We
mm,
scraped by New England, which is going to New England a horrible team to play against.
yeah,
And then we only just scraped by San Luis. Just. Um, we scraped past who was it? NYCFC, obviously out to Philly.
yeah,
So we've only actually won 2 games out of 4 regulation time.
yes, yeah, and I feel like especially for the remainder of this season, it's going to be massive. Obviously, playoffs is a must. There's nothing else but it.
Yeah,
But I was looking at the table yesterday, and I was looking at Inter Miami, obviously sitting rock bottom of East. Obviously, they haven't played any MLS fixtures whilst Messi, Jordi Alba, and Sergio Busquets has been a member of their squad. But
yeah,
there are 8 points behind us as we speak at this moment. Obviously, we play them in 2 games' time. There's 11 games left. They beat us at Red Bull Arena, especially if we don't pick up our win against DC United.
yeah,
After in 4 games' time, they could be points clear of us.
yeah. It
And
is like this season has been a very bad season for Red Bulls.
yeah,
There's no getting away from that. Let's be honest. Like no matter how you look at it, it's been a this is out there for me with like the historically bad seasons, and we're not really used to it as Red Bull fans because we've had such a dominance really for playoffs,
Yeah,
like 11 years now, I think it is, and like even the years we struggled, like I know in 21 we jet scraped in, but every other year you comfortably in the playoffs or you're in a shape to win like the conference or whatever. If you felt like you were making progress,
yeah,
this season has not been a progress. For the last 2 years it doesn't feel like progress. You
yeah,
wasted 2 years on a manager who's now at Salzburg and who they fired to get rid of early. And it's like, no, we got a assistant coach as manager. Is he a long term appointment? Is he going to be in next year? A lot of that probably depends if we make the playoffs or not. If he doesn't make the playoffs, he won't be here probably. If he does, what we've seen before the balls, he'd probably be given a chance, Amanda, to make this team his own. But I think this team needs a lot of work before next season. It's not as simple as previous years when we go. For example, when we did win MLS Cup in 2015, we pretty sure done. You gone. Well, we even play here. You got like Danny Roy in. You'll solve the issues. This Royster is not good enough for MLS.
no,
But we got strikers who are not really good enough. Our leading striker is Tom Barlow. We have. I feel like I'm betting by hitting and sticking in again. So we have the conversation before. Like we've got players who are just not up to it in MLS, and like it's not like one position. It's across many positions now. Right back with lack of depth. Striker with lack of depth. Midfield, you feel we've got rid of our best midfielder. We've not really replaced him. And it's like our star signing this year has been a major disappointment. Like whatever way you want to wrap this up, it's been a shit season. As simple as that.
yeah. And I think a lot of people are saying, "Oh, it's a wake up call,"
Yeah.
but I don't think I don't think you can really get wake up calls in the MLS
No.
because, especially in the New Jersey sporting area, you have a bad season, you're having 5,000 people turn up, and if you have another bad season, you're having 2,000
Yeah.
turn up. And all right, there's a ongoing debate about the MLS rules, and that if they get certain changes, obviously it'll benefit the Red Bull group, and going forward, it could be very good.
Yeah.
But at the moment, we've got a team that's not only just not competing, but are
Yeah.
playing horrendous football at times.
Yeah.
We are 25 points behind FC Cincinnati, which is ridiculous. They've near enough got double the points. We're on 26, they're on 51.
Yeah.
We have
We are
drawn,
23rd in the standings.
yeah,
23rd in the league standings. This is
yeah,
a team that less than less than less than what 5 years ago won the Sport of Shield with a record total.
mm,
And now 5 years. Let's it's been 5 years. We've done nothing in 5 years really.
no,
2019 was right off. 2020 was right off COVID. 2021 we just made the playoffs. Last year we got to Casino final, blow it. So we done nothing in 5 years. We wasted 5 years on two not great managers, and now we got basically the interim at a moment. Know what's happening next. It is. Well, I'm going to go back to this point. Well, me and Ed made we were on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. This was just after the whole. What's it? This is just after the whole situation, so we say, with Dante. And I mentioned that some fans were beginning to go onto the Red Bull Light side. That's kind of standstill. Well, you sort of said you were on that at the time. Has your opinion sort of differed now? Now we're 6 weeks into this. Now what? 3 months in, we had no real summer signings. We got six. All we got is players on 6 month low deal. No option to buy. So not really in position we need. So have your position sort of is your position altered at all? Are you close to joining that bandwagon, or are you still firmly on
yeah. I think it's
so
yeah,
we're in?
It's a great topic, right? That obviously they've got it right so much in the past,
Yeah,
but how I see it is obviously there's always more to it. They've put fund in it, but it's more a case of who's making the decisions actually
yeah,
in
yeah,
Harrison. Um, because whoever's making decisions is just not making good enough decisions.
yeah,
Okay, Struber was not a Harrison decision. Struber was a
yeah,
global network decision. And you get global net. Look at some of the loan deals. Obviously, some players that were playing really well. There's nothing you can do sometimes. Some players are going to go, CCJ is probably he's too good of a player for not a
yeah,
European team. But it's a whole thing of, I'm going to use a comparison. I know we can't compare it to the Premier League, but at Brighton, for example, they get a player in and they go, right, we're going to get rid of him, but they're going to replace. And they will replace one player with two players. All right, you can't do the same thing in the MLS because of restriction caps and all of this. However, if you're getting rid of a player of CCJ's quality, he was going anyway at the end of the season on a free. So
yeah,
you've got
yeah,
$1.5 million or whatever it was for him.
yeah.
There has to be someone lined up. Don't get me wrong, Frankie and Meyer, Edelman, Stroud, all good, but they're not as impactful in his
No,
position. Edelman, different position, fantastic player, probably going to get a European move within the next 18 months. However, CCJ was so impactful on the match,
yeah,
scoring, breaking up, positional awareness, leadership, that Amaya is a great player, but he's not a deep line midfielder.
no,
He's getting put in another position he's not comfortable with. And I feel like this comes back massive full circle to something I said a couple of weeks ago. It's always the same formation. Everyone knows what they're going to expect. It's the same thing. There's no plan B, none at all. And that's what I think I get more frustrated about. Okay, I've got to say, Troy, I'm going to give him one thing is the roster, everyone agrees, is not good enough and hasn't got the players
yeah,
to be able to change the system up how he might want it. There's no players hardly in this system. All right, Cameron Harbour can play right wing, but the rest of them are mainly midfielders, centre
yeah,
midfielders who
yeah.
can do a job out on the wing. And I would love to. All right, Lewis Morgan, you can say the same thing about him. He can play left wing, however, he's been injured. But there's no way you can't have such a lack of depth in a wide option
Yeah.
and have it stacked in the central position. Wiki Carmona, for example, great player, can play on the wing if we trained him there, but he just doesn't get the game time. It's always the same thing, and it's the same style of play for
Yeah,
90 minutes. It's go hard in on tackles, trying to counter attack. If we're left to have possession, it is painful to watch. So it's literally plan A, and that's it. And I think that's partly to do with everyone, to do with Red Bulls, to do with the sporting directorship, manager, roster, everything all in one. It's just create like a shit show, mind my French, so to
but I think
speak.
I think that's a good point though. What you said about who's making decisions.
Yeah,
Like we're now we're now almost like 9 years. No, not quite 9 years, but 8 7 8 years since Dennis Hamlet took up sporting director role,
yeah,
and when he took that role on in 2017, obviously it's widely known that Jesse March put Sally Curtis out. He wanted it was his team. And when Ali Dennis Hamlet sort of got that role, it was widely perceived by fans and the media, I think, that he was that spot there really to fill that role.
yeah,
Jesse March was going to do that role, but unofficially. Now it was
yeah,
basically their way of giving Jesse March sole control over his team.
yeah,
That's what I think what most people perceive it as.
yeah,
Obviously, Jesse March leaves midway through 2018. Chris Helmets comes in. Chris Helmets wins Supporter Shield. Although you could probably argue since then most of that's probably down to Jesse March nowadays.
mm,
Since Jesse March has left, Dennis Hamlet had to basically take that role on as himself
yeah,
and to do it as a proper role. But as a person who's spent his whole life as in a coaching role, being a sporting director is a very different role to being a coach.
mm,
And it's it, you could argue you probably think he's been underwhelming as sporting director so far. I don't think that's a bold claim. Like we've not really seen the same level of success since he gone alone from Jesse March.
no.
Uh,
But it's like last August, Jochen Schneider was employed as head of sport, obviously,
Yeah.
to directly go
What
over
does he
Hampton.
do?
But this is my question
What
of
does he do?
it's there's a problem somewhere. Is it too many people? We've seen this at Premier League clubs where they make more appointments and it's just more loopholes to go through, people to sign off and stuff. But no doubt they're all looking at each other and thinking, what the is going on?
Yeah.
That question has been asked, no doubt. And for a team in the New York, New Jersey area, it's a big franchise. Obviously, a team that's got the longest ongoing continuous streak in playoff sport in Northern America. It can't run the. If the worst comes to worst happens, and I'm talking worst comes to the worst situation of missing out on playoffs, it will be Armageddon at RBN.
Oh, it would be. There will be. I think if I don't make the playoffs, it will be complete wipeout of that front office setup.
Yeah.
You'll see the heads of sport go, the sporting director go. I think we don't make the playoffs. Probably not going to be next year. I think that's pretty much still it. You could argue whether we think he should be here next year or not, even if we do make the playoffs. But we will see. We'll see what happens there. I think it will be much more than just a voice to clear out. Even if I make the playoffs, to be fair, I still think there'll be technical staff readjustments, and yeah, it's going to be it's going to be an interesting off season. I think no matter what happens between now and September October time, they're going to make changes. Let's be honest, like this team is not going to be happy finishing out of playoffs, no matter what people think of the Red Bull Group and their ownership. They need this team. They need this team to win the playoffs, to at least get their brand out there more. And that's like the bare minimum they expect. So it will be. But we were talking about Troy. Say come November, say November, if Troy won't be next year. Who would be your pick or picks for managers for our new manager? Do you go to the European route? Personally, I hope they ditch that route. I don't think it's really worked. Whether we tried it, we had hands back years ago. Grav Super hasn't really worked. Do you go MLS again? Do you try and poach MLS manager? Do you go to someone in the Red Bull group? Obviously, we sort of did that with Grav Stuber, really, didn't they? Because someone who had got such a big background in Red Bull and Salzburg, didn't really compare in MLS. Like who do you go to next, or do you try and bring back someone like Jesse March? He's out of a job. He's 10 down. He's not going to get. We all thought he's going to get a US men's national team job. Obviously, Greg got that again. There's not doesn't seem to be any Premier League team come calling anytime soon. You try and tempt him back for even if it's only like a 1 year spell. You try and tempt him back. Like there's so many questions of what you do and what you do. What none, I think the big thing is no one really knows this time. I think previous years when there's been a manager vacancy, we could always sort of guess what way we're going to go. This year, I think it's so out there, and teams in such disarray, but people don't know. Like I think that's the biggest issue.
Yeah, I think the key word that I would like to see is just experience.
Yeah.
Struber, zero MLS experience.
Yeah.
Obviously, Troy, same again. I think if you look on average, obviously there's some exceptions to the law, but the teams that are always doing somewhat well, you look at their coaches and there's one thing in common. They've been in the MLS for 15, 20 years or 10 years, 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
And they're always a solid team because they realise there's look at, I think you can probably name some of the better managers in the league, and especially some of them been at their teams for 4 or 5 years. When you get such a turnover of managers, they can never put their identity in anything on a team or a squad. You see it the same in the Premier League or the Liga, Ligue 1, Bundesliga, whatever league around the world you want to see. That if a manager can't impose himself on a squad, it's always going to be 1-0 down, so to speak, because he's always playing catch up. Whereas a manager who's allowed to come in, do what they want with the roster, not what someone else wants to do with the roster. And then, all right, first year it might not do well. Second year it might be getting there. But after 2-3 years with a manager with his own players, with his own ideas, his own recruitment, if it's a good manager, they'll do very well. And that's all I want to see is a good, experienced coach given time.
Yeah, I agree. I think it needs to be someone within the MLS or someone who's managed an MLS before. Obviously, I think this listeners, our dream is like Jesse March comes back, and I actually heard there was a chance that I didn't hear, but I sort of thought heard on the grapevines that might be one of the things that he's apparently interested. Again, it's all a lot of grapevine stuff, so no one really knows. It's all hearsay. It's all like a lot of rumors. But you need someone who's got MLS experience, someone who's got MLS Cup experience, someone who's ideally you want someone who played in MLS really. Like because even if I change the rules, I'm not going to get rid of every rule. And MLS does not. I think they need to scrap the European route. Not working for us. Just keep going. Go for MLS guy. Get someone like that. I think that's the way forward for this team.
Yep, don't disagree at all. All I would like to see is an experienced MLS coach that's had years behind him and projects. He's allowed to have a project. Like give him the security of right. It doesn't matter what happens in the first season. We don't give the monkeys basically. We don't care. We don't want like obviously results do matter, but it's not the be all end all. Positive gains, positive starts, and then the second year, right? We don't want you to win the whole thing, but you got to do a good run in the season, decent finish, and obviously be nice to get a couple of wins in the playoffs. Then third season, be like, look, last 2 seasons we've gone easy on you. Third season, right? Come on now, right? We want to push to Supporters Shield or MLS Cup. That's just my personal thoughts on it, and obviously it has to go hand in hand with good recruitment. Obviously, there's going to be turnover of players. There's going to be players that leave and will be in Europe or just leave because they're not good enough. And just let the manager have a good go at it. If they believe in Troy, good. Back him at the beginning of the season with transfers and let him build a roster that is actually decent and not below average.
This is next big question. Since for almost 10 years now, really, we've been doing it. It's not quite 10 years, but it's almost 10 years. It's been since 2015, really. We sort of scrapped its big name player and gone for its team. We're a team of players, and we're going to bring you through. Some tell to Europe, and then we sort of do that. And it worked. It worked for 3 or 4 years. We won Shields. It was all good. It sort of died down a bit now. And MLS are introducing a fourth DP next year, they reckon. So it's 2 more spots we won't use. I think we're going to use 2 now. But the question is, do I scrap bits youth development scheme? Do I go for obviously not Messi, but do I go for the Argentinian players like Atlanta have done very well, the South American players? Do I go for these big name players and just try and win something, or do I keep with this? We know we're going to bring, particularly our youth, bring them through the twos into our first team. We're going to invest in the community. Is that a way forward for this team, or do I basically go back to what they were 10 years ago? When 10 years ago, since they won the Shield this year, we had your Henry, you had your Cahills, you had all your decent player, the big players, MLS vets as well, Johnny Still, Eric Alexander. Do I go back to that? Because we looked at it, this team is very young as well. That's the other issue. The team is young.
Yeah, I think it's finding the fine balance, right? I would say one of the better pieces of recruitment in the last couple of years has been Luquinhas. Bringing
Yeah,
in a South American from Europe, who's obviously playing in Poland, but has got a good a bit. You need to find the right balance. We're not going to go out and get a Messi or a
no, no.
Neymar who's half getting linked to LA Galaxy and LAFC at the moment. It's
Neymar does have a new football scarf though.
yeah,
When he played when I opened Red Bull Arena at Santos. That
yeah.
was like one of the
So
biggest rumours for years and years and years that one day he's gonna come to new Bulls.
well, obviously he's got the Red Bull sponsorship deal as well, but
Yeah. It's
it
not a pre it's probably not gonna happen.
no, it's it comes down to a question of I think you've got to find the right balance. You've got to have youth, and I love the youth aspect, bringing through younger players, buying younger players from South America. Brilliant. But look how I know you just referred to it, and United done it absolutely
Yeah,
fantastic. Every single person who plays a certain sports game knew who Thiago Almeida was, and being one of the highest rated talents coming out of
yeah,
Argentina, and for him to go to an MLS club, ripping it up now, playing absolutely fantastic. Obviously,
yeah,
become the first MLS squad member to win the World Cup. So you got to buy players like that. We've gone to South America, bought some utter rubbish in the past. One example, Fabio, rubbish, waste of time. But on the other hand, there's some decent players who have moved on, but also still in the roster. Obviously, CCJ's moved on, fantastic player. Ricky
yeah,
Carmona, great addition. Reyes, okay, he was in the MLS already with Inter Miami, but still, this South American core is good, but
yeah,
you need experience of players who know how to win games as well.
yeah.
It's finding that right balance, and we don't have that right balance at the moment.
No,
It's very youthful. You look at the midfield four. Julian Edelman, he's still a blooming baby in comparison to half the players in the MLS in his
yeah,
position. Frankie Amaya, Amir Fernandez, and Luquinhas. Okay, Luquinhas is slightly older, but it's a very, very young midfield. Whereas before, all right, we always go say about the glory days. Sasha Cleston, Felipe, Sean Davis. Oh, Sean Davis was young when he came in. Obviously, Tyler Adams was young as well. Dax
yeah,
McKay. There was always an experienced
yeah,
head.
yeah,
If it weren't there, it was an experienced head at the back. We just
yeah.
need,
Even 2018. The reason I'm saying this, I got the 2018 poster right in front of me. We won the Shield.
yeah,
Had Aaron Long, Alex Mariel, Mark Waskowski, Colin. There's so many. Even Sean Davis, Tim Parker, Ryan Mara was there by that stage. So many players who've been there and like done it for years after years. And going back to what you said, glory days. So they are glory days now. Like 2 years ago, 2 years ago when we started this podcast, they weren't glory days. They were active times.
yeah,
We were calling it active era. But now they're now a glory days. We haven't won anything since then. And what
no,
makes it even more depressing for me in a way is A, they should have won MLS Cup at least twice in that time.
yeah,
Should have won 2015 MLS Cup, should have won 2018 MLS Cup, and also won three supporter shields, which I love a shield, don't get me wrong. But I don't know if you know this, Ronnie, but the record for MLS supporter shield is four. And you think if they carried on and they were dominated MLS from 2013 to 2018, it's basically won three shields in 5 years, they would have beaten that record hands down by now. But it just sort of feels like the team gave up a bit. Sort of feel like Victory doesn't really care about winning as much anymore. It's more about,
yeah,
oh, if you get in the playoffs, that's okay. I don't think it is like that. I think that data is. But obviously, that's what it feels like. The audience, to us, our fans, being fan base here sometimes. Oh, it's all right. If you get in the playoffs, it's okay. Like, yeah, it's great to have an 11-year streak. But how many years have we actually gone for a run for that?
mm,
How many years we got close to getting MLS tap? We're one of the only teams, one of the only two teams to not win MLS Cup, who started in 1996.
yeah,
NYCFC formed 2015. We had 20 years ahead of them, and they won MLS Cup. We haven't. Like, that's depressing. Like, that Shield one for me is the biggest sort of. So I remember after the 2018 season going on Twitter like, I can see us breaking this record in the next 2 years or so. So I was like, yeah, I think we're so dominant, and let's say we could go back to 2018. Would you ever think this would happen now? I can say hand on heart, I would never think it would get like this, where we barely struggling to get in the playoffs. Because, like I said, say you don't win the Shield, it was never a case of squeezing into the playoffs. You were always comfortably in the playoffs, weren't you? You always, but most years you didn't win the Sports Shield, you finished first in the East, or second, or third. It was never like getting above that line. It was always comfortable. This is now uncomfortable territory, and the way its club has fallen in the last 5 years is simply put unacceptable. How it's been allowed to happen in the last 5 years by its team to go from winning the Supporter Shield with record points to barely making playoffs or might not even make playoffs this year. We don't know yet. Is nothing short of atrocious. And I know we're going all out in this podcast today, but it's a very serious conversation. I think needs to be had because it's not good enough for what for a New York sports based market. What its team is achieving is not good enough.
No.
What its fan base deserve is not good enough. And for what we know this team can do, we've seen what this team can do when they actually want go out and win.
Mm.
And the last 5 years, we've not got that. We've got loads of false starts and very disappointing endings. So that's my rant over anyway.
No, I think that's an absolute perfect way to finish because I feel like you've just captured emotions of every single person who follows this team religiously, whether it's from home at RBA or wherever it is. That we want better, and we know there can be better. We've
Yeah,
seen better. All I'm saying is there's not much worse we can do. So going forward, the brighter days will be back. Obviously, rule changes and all that, but I think from all the way over in the UK, that is our side of the rant. I know we have indulged in the tradition of being a Red Bulls fan by having a rant because you've got to have a rant from time to
yeah,
time. But I think most importantly, I would say we've got a week and a bit off now until the DC United game. And then
yeah,
obviously the week after that's the big one against Lionel Messi's into Miami, which is going to be a bundle of fun at this rate. So
yeah.
do enjoy the League Cup if you are going to bother watching it. But I am taking a nice
I'm not.
week's break from American soccer as the Premier League season and English football returns. So make sure everyone out there is having a good time, staying safe. And obviously, from me and Luke, obviously, it's an absolute pleasure having you along again for another episode of the RBNY UK podcast. And until next time and more positive times, we'll see you on the flip side. But most importantly, go on your Red Bulls.
See you later.